Hello and welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping or wholesaling houses in New York. If you're already doing it, how to grow your business. Now, I did a video last week about some other topic, and I mentioned how I dealt with squatters, and I mentioned I would do a video on about how to deal with squatters, and I got a lot of requests for it. So I'm talking about how to deal with squatters on a property that you own. First, let's define what a squatter is. A squatter is somebody who never had a lease, never had a right to be there, and who shows up. Now, this happens, unfortunately, a lot in my area when you have a property that you are, let's say, in contract for sale, or you're waiting for a contractor to start working on it, or it's vacant for whatever reason, and people figure it out and they get inside and move in. So the first thing is to avoid squatters. So that means secure the property very well. Make sure everything's locked. Lock boxes are secure. Make sure anybody that comes in to take a look at the property better lock the lockbox and change the code, or move the combination. And you should check on the property regularly. So I try to check on properties every 2 to 3 days because I've been through squatters enough times to know that the longer you let squatters stay there, the bigger a problem this becomes. Now, what do you do with a squatter? So I consider myself a normal and rational person, right? I consider myself someone who doesn't like to use violence. However, there is a huge problem with squatters today. The problem with squatters today is that they're very sophisticated. The last few situations I had with squatters, they did exactly what I'm going to describe, and it is a big problem. So a normal, rational person would say, hey, I own a house, somebody moves in, I'm going to call the police and they're going to remove them. That would make the most sense. And sometimes that works, right? I've had situations like that. I had a situation in Valley Stream where it was next to a park. There was a homeless person living in the park, found their way in the house. She was mentally disturbed. Cops came, sent her to the hospital. She came back. Cops sent her to jail. I secured the property, figured out how she was getting in. That can happen. However, sophisticated squatters are people who are smart enough to create a fake lease. Now, that's a problem, because if you call the cops and a squatter whips out a lease and says, hey, I rented this from Mr. X, the police are powerless at that point. It becomes a civil matter. It has to go to eviction courts. It puts you in a completely powerless situation. You literally have somebody living in your house that you cannot remove without going through the eviction process, which can take many months. So, I mean, in New York City, it can take 2 years. In my area, in Long Island, it take 3 to 4 months if it's uncontested. And it's expensive, and it's a pain in the ass. So, a couple of disclaimers now that I tell you what I do, and you may think I'm insane because of it. I'm warning you in advance. So first of all, let me explain. I'm 6'1", 210 pounds. I took Krav Maga for a bunch of years. I feel like I can handle myself in almost any situation. It doesn't mean I'm never going to get jumped, but I go in crazy, insane crazy, no matter what happens. So I will pound the door early, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, like a madman, ring the bell 700 times, like a psychopath. I'll break a window. I'll be nuts. Somebody will come to the door, and then I will have a baseball bat, maybe a crowbar also, baseball bat in my right hand, crowbar in my left, or a pry bar, and I will say, get the hell out of my house. At which point I've been said, well, I'm renting it, here's my lease, and that's when you need to know what to say to them, because that never holds up, ever, right? So last time this happened, where was it? It was in Elmont. And they said to me, oh, we rented it from John. I'm like, what's John's phone number? Give me his number. And of course they say, we don't have it. I go, well, who are you going to call if something broke? Who are you going to call if the electricity went out? I know the electricity, you're not paying electricity because I'm still paying electricity. And you have to go nuts. Now, this last situation, I had staged the entire property myself. So the guys had beds, furniture, lamps. I didn't take the bat and I smashed a lamp. My own lamp, right? In another situation, I smashed a hole in the wall, my own wall. But at that point, I say, the next thing I'm breaking is your head. You have 1 minute to get out. At that point, they're going to make a split-second decision that it's not worth their bullshit story because they know it won't hold up. Once you've established, you have to punch a hole in that. The cops are never going to punch a hole in their story. The cops are going to go, sorry, there's nothing we can do. We're powerless. You have to punch a hole in the story immediately and say, listen, if you don't know who you leased it from, because I said, I want to know who's leasing my house at. I go, you're full of shit. I go, if you don't know who to contact, if you're leasing a property and you don't know who to you can't contact the landlord. I go, what happens if the roof leaks? What happens if the electricity went out? At that point, they realize the story won't hold up. So at that point, you have to act like a psychopath, and you have to make a split-second decision that this is not worth dealing with. It's worth it to just get my stuff out of here. So that may sound insane, and obviously I am not afraid of this situation. And if anybody in Long Island needs help with this situation, please feel free to call me. I'll be happy to bring my baseball bat and crowbar that I'm looking at right now to their situation. But I've also spoke with a bunch of sellers who handled it the wrong way, which is seemingly the normal, rational way of calling the police. And they're now sitting in a situation where they're years later, especially now because of the pandemic moratorium. And it's not an acceptable situation for me. For me, it's not an acceptable situation to say I'm going to put myself in a place where I can't get anybody out. So you have to act like a nut job. You have to immediately punch holes in their BS lease. And again, sometimes they'll just leave without it. I've had how many squatters have I dealt with? Probably 8 or 9 in my 10 years I've been doing this. It happens. So that's, again, if you're an 80-pound woman, you may not want to do this, what I'm describing. If you're afraid of getting killed, this might not be the right thing for you. But you can give me a call and I'll be happy to come because I love getting squatters out. But you have to act like a psychopath so that person says this is not worth it. But also it's important. You can't let this drag on. Every day that a squatter stays in the property and you don't confront them is the day they believe they're going to stay there long term. So and I've seen situations where squatters stayed in properties with no heat through the winter, no air conditioning through the summer, no electricity for a long time. It happens. So you have to understand these are probably people whose option is living on the street, and their much better option is living in your house. But I believe you have to go psycho. And I'm not a psycho, but I go psycho in this situation because if the cops show up, you're gonna, and they have and they're smart enough to have a fake lease. You are now in a horrible, ridiculous position where you've gone to the authorities and authorities have said there's nothing we can do. It's a court matter, and that's happened. So I would say, buenos dias, Arvin. I would say that you have to go psycho in this situation. And while that does not seem like a great thing, and it's not something that I am proud of, I do it, and it's worked every single time. So let's talk more about squatters. So again, a squatter is somebody who never had any rights to be in the property. It's not someone who used to live there. If it's someone who had a lease, then you can't do what I'm describing. If it's someone who owned the property, you can't do what I'm describing. If it's someone who even had the permission of the owner to be in there, you can't do what I'm describing. That's actually something I just found out recently. It's called a licensee. Right? It's not a squatter, not an owner, not a tenant. It's a licensee. That's someone who was allowed to move in and just never moved out. I dealt with something like that in Bethpage recently. So, but a squatter is somebody who's not there. So that's someone who you went into the house was vacant, and you came back a day later and someone's in there, right? And that is a squatter. And that is a situation where you have to jump on it quickly, and you have to jump on it. You don't have to, but I recommend jumping on it as a psychopath and going bananas on it. Because then they will come out. And then you have to figure out how they got in. You may have to change a lock. You may have to board up a window. You may have to change a door. You got to figure out how they get in. I then usually put signs on it that says that, or I'll put cameras out, either real cameras or fake cameras with flashing lights, and I'll say this property is under video surveillance. Police are making routine stops here. That usually keeps people out. In fact, I've never had someone, once I put up those signs, come back in. And that could be something you use preventatively. If you think it's an area where squatters are moving in, if you see people casing the place, or you're near a park where homeless people live, you might want to do that, right? Fake cameras are very cheap at Home Depot, talking about $15-20 each. It's a little battery, there's a flashing red light, put it by each door, and people are not going to come in. And you put up a sign saying, I could send you a copy of the sign if anybody wants. You can email me. Basically, this property is the premises of 123 Main Street LLC. Nassau County Police have been informed about illegal activity taking place here and have agreed to make routine checkups. Anybody found on these premises is trespassing and will be subject to blah, 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 blah. You know what it says. And I put my cell phone on it. I go, anybody who's got questions, you call me. And I have people call me. Also, sometimes I'll tell the neighbors too. I go, if anybody comes in there, I had that homeless person in Valley Stream. I actually found her because a neighbor told me someone's in that house. And she saw her lurking around. So also good to speak to the neighbors is helpful. So that's how I deal with squatters. Again, I don't recommend it for everybody. I'm not scared of whatever will happen. I find also people early in the morning are not in a fighting mood. They're usually in a sleepy mood. But that's what I do. If you need help with it, I'm happy to help you. My office number is on all the show notes or on top. And I hope this was helpful. I really do. I know it sounds nuts. Even as I say it, I know it sounds nuts, but it works. So if you're interested in how other ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com. If you're interested in my course that teaches how to do what I do, go to howtoflipnewyorkcourse.com. If you're interested in coaching, go to coaching.howtoflipnewyork.com. And what else? Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any platform, please click like. The thumbs up really helps my SEO, my search engine optimization, so more people get to see these videos. And I can keep going live 5 times a week, which I've been doing for a pretty long time. What else? Oh, and keep the comments coming. So any questions you have, there are no bad questions. It doesn't have to be on this topic. It can be on any topic. Any comment comes, if it's a simple answer, I'll just reply. If it's a topic that I handled in depth, I will send you a link to a video or two that I've done on it. If it's a new topic or something I haven't covered in a while, maybe I'll do a video on it. But keep the comments coming. It really gives me it gives me the ideas to keep going live 5 times a week. Sometimes I can't even think of what to say. So your comments help me, and I really appreciate them. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it.